You ever wonder what happens to the heroes who fight our wars, only to be discarded once the battle is over? No medals, no gratitude, just forgotten. What if I told you that a man once hailed as a hero was abandoned by the very country he fought for? A man whose life was shattered by betrayal, whose soul is haunted by memories that won't fade. Would you care? Or would you just move on? Well, this is his story. And trust me, it's one that will make you think twice about the people we trust the most. I'm Jack Lawson, 37 years old, living in a small town just outside of Jacksonville, North Carolina. You wouldn't know me if I walked right past you on the street though, and that's fine by me. In a way, that's how I prefer it now. You see, I used to be someone. I used to wear the uniform, stand tall, and feel proud when they called me a hero. Before I proceed, kindly subscribe and comment. The system, the country I fought for, hell, they even gave me medals. They told me I was important. But those days are over. I'm not that man anymore. I'm the one they'd rather forget. When I was younger, I believed in everything they told me. Honor, duty, the sense of belonging. I was ready to fight for the freedom of this country, to defend its values no matter the cost. But now, the government's not interested in the men who come home broken. They're only interested in the ones who can still stand at attention, still smile for the cameras, and still play their part. The rest of us? Well, we get tossed aside like yesterday's garbage. You're probably wondering how I ended up like this. How did I go from being a decorated soldier to a man who no one even remembers? From a warrior who stood for something to a broken man whose voice barely rises above a whisper? It's not a pretty story, but it's mine. Let me take you back to when I was still someone worth remembering, back when I thought my life was all set to make a difference. I was young, strong, and full of hope, living the kind of life every soldier dreams about. But that was before the betrayal. Before I realized that the very people I trusted the most, people I fought for, would be the ones to shatter my life. That's the real story. The one that no one tells. I was once someone they looked up to, someone with purpose. My name was Jack Lawson, and I served in an elite, secretive unit within the government. Covert missions that most people never even knew about. You know, the kind of missions where your success means you're a hero, but your failure means you never existed. For years, I was proud of what I did. I wore that uniform like it meant something. I was the man people came to when they needed someone who would get the job done, no questions asked. I thought it was worth it. I thought everything was worth it. But I lost more than I can ever get back. Family, love, dreams, things most men take for granted. I gave them all up. I thought my country needed me more. I thought I could handle it, that the sacrifice would somehow make everything right. I remember the night before I was set to leave on my final mission. I sat at the kitchen table with my wife, Emily, and our 5-year-old son, Timmy. It was one of those rare moments when the weight of the world didn't feel so heavy. We were all together, and for just a few minutes, everything felt normal. "Jack, are you sure you want to go?" Emily asked, looking at me with those tired eyes. She always knew how to read me, even when I tried to hide my doubts. "I have to go, Em," I said, my voice firm, but inside I could feel the pull of home. I wanted to stay to be with them. But duty called, and I couldn't let them down. "It's my job. You and Timmy, you're why I do this." Timmy, with his innocent face, was too young to understand the gravity of what I was about to do. But he tugged at my sleeve, looking up at me with big, trusting eyes. "Come back soon, Daddy?" "Always," I said, ruffling his hair, my heart breaking a little as I spoke. I had no idea what would happen in the coming days, but I wasn't about to tell him that. Emily kissed me goodbye, but there was something in her eyes, a silent fear, something she didn't say but I could feel. I reassured her with a smile, but deep down I was scared too. I was torn between duty and love. But I knew she was proud of me. They both were. And that meant more than anything. The mission went south fast. Too fast. We were sent in to secure intelligence that could have crippled an enemy that had been operating under the radar for years. We were told it was a routine job, just another quick in and out. But as soon as we hit the ground, we were ambushed. The firefight was brutal, and the enemy knew exactly where to strike. It wasn't luck, it was a setup. Men I served with, men I trusted, died within seconds. My team, my brothers, weren't just casualties. They were sacrificed. We fought like hell, but the mission was over before we even had a chance to finish. I managed to get out barely. The rest of my unit didn't make it. When I returned home, bruised, bloodied, and broken, I thought there would be a hero's welcome. After everything I'd done, everything I'd lost, I thought they'd honor me. I thought they'd give me the respect I deserved. But instead, I was shoved into the shadows. The government denied everything. They discredited me. They discredited my team. We were labeled as rogue agents, responsible for the failure of the mission. No medals. No recognition. Just a slap in the face. A week later, the media came out with a statement. The operation was a failure due to the reckless actions of Lawson and his team. They defied orders and caused unnecessary casualties. They blamed me. I sat there, reading the words over and over again, not believing it. My blood boiled, my hands shook. I had risked everything, given everything for this country, and they were throwing me under the bus. Worse, they were threatening my family. They told Emily that if she spoke out, if she even whispered the truth about what had really happened, she would regret it. They stripped me of everything. My medals were revoked. My pension was denied. I was left with nothing but a shattered life. I tried to fight it. I tried to find the truth. But the government's grip was too strong. No one would listen. No one cared. I was just another forgotten soldier. I felt the weight of betrayal crushing me every day. The sting of those lies, the cold indifference from the very people I fought for, haunted me. Every time I looked in the mirror, I didn't see the man I used to be. I saw a ghost. A man who had given up everything, who had lost it all. And for what? I couldn't escape the memories of my fallen comrades. Their faces, their voices, the moments before the end, were all burned into my mind. And as for Emily, well, she was distant. She couldn't look at me the same way anymore. I saw it in her eyes. The pity, the fear, the uncertainty. She didn't know how to cope with the man I had become. Timmy, he didn't understand. But he could see the difference. The father he once adored, the man who was his hero, was gone. And in his place was a broken version of me. I had given up everything for this country. And now I had nothing. The worst part? I couldn't even remember why I did it. Was it for them? For Emily? For Timmy? Or was it just for the government that left me in the dust when I no longer served their purpose? There was no going back. The man I once was gone. It's hard to move on when your mind keeps dragging you back to places you don't want to be. It's even harder when you don't know if you're supposed to forget or remember. The nightmares, those damned nightmares, became my constant companions. I couldn't escape them. No matter how much I tried to drown them with alcohol, they always came back, sharper, louder, more relentless. You'd think it would get easier, but the scars on your soul don't fade. They just fester deeper and deeper. I was sitting at the kitchen table one night, staring at an old photo of my team. The faces, full of life, forever frozen in time. I could almost hear their voices. I could hear the laughter, the stories they told during downtime, the camaraderie that felt so real. But that's all gone now. All of it. Gone in a cloud of gunfire and blood. That's when the darkness crept in again. I woke up to the stench of smoke, the sound of gunfire piercing through the air. My heart was pounding as I found myself back on the battlefield. The same one where everything ended. I looked around, the chaos all too familiar. The deafening explosions. The blood. My comrades. I saw David, the kid from Jersey who always cracked jokes to lighten the mood. His body was limp, a gaping hole where his chest used to be. I reached for him, but my hands couldn't touch him. Every time I tried, I was pulled back by the weight of my own legs, the weight of the mission I failed. David, I screamed, but the words never came out. They were lost in the air, drowned out by the barrage of gunfire. I couldn't save him. I couldn't save any of them. And that's when I saw Tommy, my best friend. He was bleeding out, his eyes staring into mine with that look, one that screamed for help, for mercy, for a chance. But I couldn't reach him either. My body wouldn't move. My gun jammed. And the only thing I could do was watch as he slipped away. And then, just before everything went black, I heard the screams, their screams. The screams of the men who died because I failed them. I woke up in a cold sweat, gasping for breath, my chest tightening as if someone had just wrapped a noose around my neck. The sound of distant gunfire still echoed in my ears. I couldn't shake the images, the faces of the men I lost. But that night something else happened. I stumbled across an old military report buried deep in a file. It wasn't meant to be seen. It wasn't supposed to be accessible. But there it was, classified documents revealing a truth I wasn't ready for. The mission wasn't a failure. We weren't the rogue agents they claimed we were. We were sacrificed. The government had orchestrated the whole thing. High-ranking officials, people I had served with, people I had trusted. They knew exactly what would happen. The mission was a cover-up, a way to conceal a corrupt operation they were running. We were expendable. My team was expendable. I stared at the documents in disbelief. It felt like someone had ripped my chest open, leaving me raw and exposed. My hands trembled as I processed what I was seeing. My friends, they didn't die because we messed up. They died because the government decided they no longer needed us. I felt like I was suffocating. My head swirled with the weight of it all. The guilt, the anger, the betrayal, it was too much to bear. All these years I thought I had failed. That I hadn't done enough. Maybe I wasn't cut out for the life I had chosen. I blamed myself for every fallen comrade, for every mistake, for every moment I wasn't fast enough, strong enough, brave enough to save them. But now I know. It wasn't my fault. None of it was my fault. But the truth didn't set me free. It just made the weight of everything worse. I had fought for a lie. I had given my soul to a system that had used me, broken me, and then tossed me aside like trash. And now I had to live with the knowledge that my comrades died not because of our failure, but because of a betrayal that went to the very top. I couldn't shake the thought, if I had known the truth sooner, would things have been different? Would I have done more? Would I have been able to stop it? The more I thought about it, the more I questioned everything. My service, my loyalty, my country. What was I really fighting for? Who was I really fighting for? I had lost too much to keep pretending that everything was still the same. I couldn't trust anyone anymore, not even myself. And the worst part? I knew I wasn't done. The truth had just begun to unravel, and I had no idea what would happen next. But I did know one thing, I was going to make them pay. I couldn't stay silent anymore. The weight of it all, my comrades' deaths, the government's lies, the guilt that had eaten away at me for years, was too much to bear. I had to do something. I had to expose them. The truth was buried so deep, but I could feel it in my gut. If I didn't act now, it would be too late. I wasn't going to sit back and let the people who betrayed me get away with it. I was going to make them pay. But I wasn't naive enough to think I could take on the entire government alone. They were powerful everywhere, watching, waiting. They had eyes everywhere, and I was just one man with a damaged soul and a thirst for revenge. I couldn't trust anyone in the system anymore. The betrayal ran too deep. That's when I called on the only people I knew who could help me, my old squad members, the ones who had been through it all with me. The ones who had been abandoned just like me. They weren't living the lives they deserved. Most of them were in hiding, scarred by the mission and its aftermath. Some were broken, others just trying to get by. But all of them were still loyal to me, and I to them. I drove out to an old warehouse on the outskirts of town. The kind of place that didn't draw attention, the kind of place where we could speak freely. I hadn't seen most of these guys in years. Some had changed, beards, hair gone gray, a few extra pounds. But they were still the same men I'd fought alongside. The bond between us had never been broken, even though the government had tried to erase our existence. We sat around an old table, the tension thick in the air. They knew what I wanted. They knew the risks. We all did. I know you all have your reasons for staying out of this, I said, my voice rough. But we can't let them get away with it. We can't let them erase us, make our sacrifices meaningless. The room was silent for a moment. Then Mark, the quiet one who had always been level-headed, spoke up. You know they'll come after us if we go public. They'll silence us any way they can. They have too much power. I know, I replied, my hands clenched into fists. But we're already dead in their eyes. What's left for us if we don't fight back? They looked at each other, exchanging knowing glances. Finally, Sarah, the only woman in our group and one of the toughest soldiers I knew, spoke. I'm in. We owe it to the ones who didn't make it out. The others nodded. They didn't have to say much. We all knew the cost of inaction. We made our plan, leak the classified documents, get the truth out, expose the corruption. We'd hit them where it hurt. But we all knew the stakes. There was no going back from this. As we were finalizing the plan, Liam, my closest friend during the war, called. He'd risen through the ranks after our team was disbanded. Now he was a high-ranking government official with connections I could only dream of. I hadn't heard from him in years, but his voice on the phone still held the same tone of authority it had back in the day. "I've got your back, Jack. I can help with the leaks. I've been in a position to expose this for a while now," Liam said, his voice calm, almost reassuring. For a moment I almost believed him. I wanted to believe him. He was my brother in arms, the one I trusted with my life. But something felt off. There was a hesitation in his voice I couldn't ignore. I brushed it off. After all, he was one of the few I thought I could still rely on. That was my first mistake. A few days later, when we were ready to release the documents, I received an anonymous message. It was a warning. Someone within our group had betrayed us. I couldn't shake the feeling that it was Liam. The thought gnawed at me, but I needed proof. I confronted him. He denied everything, of course. But something in his eyes told me I was right. The betrayal hit harder than anything I had ever experienced. Liam wasn't just a colleague. He was my friend. He was my brother. To think that he had been feeding us false information, keeping us off track, all while working as a double agent, it tore me apart. I felt the weight of it in my gut. This wasn't just about the government anymore. It was about the people I trusted, the people I fought with, bled with. If I couldn't trust Liam, who could I trust? The anger inside me flared up. I was done questioning myself. The pain, the guilt, it was all secondary now. The truth needed to be out there. I wasn't going to let them win. I wasn't going to let Liam or anyone else destroy the work we had started. I made my decision. The next day, I sent the documents to the press. The entire world needed to know the truth about what happened to my team. The government couldn't hide it anymore. I released a statement detailing everything, what we had been sent to do, the corruption we uncovered, the betrayal we suffered. I knew they would try to silence me. They would try to bury me and my team. But I didn't care anymore. The truth was out. And nothing, not Liam's betrayal, not the government's power, could take that away from me. I waited, the adrenaline coursing through me. The next few hours felt like years. And then the world began to react. The media picked up the story. People began to ask questions. Finally, the truth was out there for everyone to see. But I knew it wouldn't be easy. The government wasn't going to let this go. The fight was far from over. As I watched the news coverage of the leaks, I heard the sound of a car pulling up outside my house. The doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked out the window. A black SUV. My heart stopped. They were here. And I wasn't sure if I'd make it out alive.